Sorry. Hey everybody! Welcome to our panel here at the NECANN in Atlantic City Cannabis Convention Center. I'm Dan Uloa, editor of HettyNJ.com. You know, we are the leading advocates of the New Jersey Cannabis Home Grow Coalition here, you know. So we've been fighting to legalize home grow, to be able to grow cannabis plants at home, which remains like a felony though, even though like we have like a really large industry now, it's booming, you know, for example, so it's really difficult. And we have been making progress, you know, it is hard, but you know, we're having fun. So let's meet our advocates here. Evan?
Nice to meet you. I'm Evan Nissen. I think what we're talking about is ideally giving enough background on ourselves and what we do so you can ask questions. We do have a bunch of questions that we wrote that we'll answer, but the hope is, you know, it's not a huge group and we really need community involvement to pass this, so the hope is to make this more of like a engaging discussion, maybe community action type of meeting. But with that being said, I'm Evan Nissen. I'm on the board of NORML National, the National Organization for Reform Marijuana Laws, and I'm on the board of Students for Sensible Drug Policy as well. I was executive director of NORML New Jersey, the state chapter, for about 8 years, and helped pass. I was involved in the medical bill back in the day, but I was not a leading advocate then. And then I got sort of more involved, helped pass recreational. Dan and I were founding members of NJUMR, New Jersey United for Marijuana Reform. And then after we legalized cannabis, most of that coalition got busy doing other important work, but not home grow. So we've continued to do weekly calls, whichever one is more invited to join, and doing what we can to finish up the last few things of legalization, which in my opinion are getting everyone out of jail and home cultivation, and that is when we'll have true full legalization.
Kristen?
My name is Kristen Godey. I'm the founder of Tricom Analytical. We're an accredited third-party testing facility in New Jersey. We are also the only locally owned and operated testing facility in New Jersey. I started getting involved in the home grow movement about a year ago when I was contacted by the New Jersey Bar Association Subcommittee for Cannabis, where it came up in one of their meetings that home grow isn't legal and it shouldn't be because it isn't safe, because it's not tested. So they did have some questions pertaining to that, which I responded to, stating that the testing aspect of home cultivation does not make it safe or not safe. You have more control over your own grow. Also, similarly to growing tomatoes in your backyard, that is also not tested. But in New Jersey, they do allow the use of personal use testing. So if you did want to get it tested, you can certainly do that. So I ended up writing an op-ed with the lawyer that had contacted me, and then after that, I was put in touch with NORML and some other advocacy groups and people working on home grow, and we've made progress with the current legislation. The legislature that's up and the bills that are in progress to try to move this forward. I believe anyone from an industry perspective, if you're profiting in this industry, you should also care for the patients in the industry and the people, and make sure that you are doing what you can with your voice that you do have in the industry to make change at the state level, and to make sure that patients have access to their medication and that people have access to the right to grow.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, so we've been working on this, we've been making progress. So the thing about legalization is that it has to go through like the New Jersey legislature, a bill through the assembly, the committee, and the full assembly to pass it, and the full state senate as well. The NJ Cannabis Regulatory Commission cannot help. Unfortunately, they are neutral on it. So, but like we have been making progress, so it's a big thing. So yeah. We want to have a legislative update here.
Yeah, so there's currently a couple bills up for home cultivation in New Jersey, but only one bill really has that traction that's needed with the number of sponsors to get it through, and that's the one pertaining to medical home cultivation. So that's been our focus the last I don't know, 9 months now, to get more sponsors on that bill. We are up to 8 sponsors, soon to be 9 sponsors when the session resumes, which is a lot for any legislation that's going in New Jersey, and that's on the Senate side. It does need to, from our understanding, move in the Senate prior to it moving into the Assembly, so we've been focusing our efforts there. But there's a lot of support, even if there's not sponsors, co-sponsors. The senators are definitely in support of medical home cultivation. It's just a matter of getting it heard in the Senate Health Committee and having it progress through the legislature. So one of the issues that we've been running into with this bill, which is S1393, I advise everyone to read through it, try to support it, try to contact your state representatives to support that bill.
I'm sorry, what was that, S what?
S1393 is the home cultivation bill that currently has 8 sponsors and soon to be 9 sponsors. There's only 40 senators in the state. As we can get more and more sponsors, it will help the ability for that bill to progress through the state process. And this would allow a medical patient who's registered currently in the program to start home cultivation. They will be limited, as the bill currently stands, to a 4 plant count, which we have comments on as well. But it's a step in the right direction, which would also open up the ability to progress on personal use home cultivation. We are the only state that legalized adult use without also legalizing medical home cultivation. So this is a critical issue for everyone in the industry, especially for patients that need consistent supply of their medication and consistency in their genetics and their cultivars. You know, sometimes they can't find that strain-specific medication on the market consistently. They might find something that works, and then the next time they go to the dispensary, it's sold out, and it doesn't get grown again. So having that consistent supply is extremely important for a lot of strain-specific uses.
Nice. Yeah, so we've been really working on this and like making progress and like really trying to get it through the legislature and find people to persuade like state senators like Teresa Ruiz of Newark, you know, Sandra McKnight of Jersey City, and especially Nick Scutari of Linden in Union County for this. But you know, it's a big thing, these issues. You know, in passing this and like dealing with this and trying to remove like punitive measures, for example. So, what would you?
We also have this QR code that disappeared for a second, but if you scan this, it'll help you contact your legislators instantly.
Right, so there's 2 things that we're really pushing the state for on changes to the current bill that does have this support, and they have been open to it. We've been meeting with the primary sponsor's office, which is Senator Singleton, who's my district, where my lab's located and where I live as well. They've been very open to talking with us. If in your area you know that your state representative is not yet in support, I really recommend reaching out to them, trying to schedule a meeting and to discuss these things. This QR code will take you to njhomegrow.com, where we have email templates that you can start talking to your state representatives about. But there are also two considerations that we have for changes to this bill, where we believe that regulating medical home cultivation by canopy makes a lot more sense than plant count. Currently in the industry, everything's regulated by canopy area, and we believe that is more important, especially for medicinal purposes, for the so that people can do pheno hunting and things like that in a 10 by 10 area, versus having to worry about keeping to 4 plants to have that consistent supply to find the medication that they need, and to do any potential breeding that they would have to do, and pheno hunting to obtain their medication. In this bill, it also adds on additional punitive measures for medical patients providing any homegrown cannabis to another person, even if it's not sold. We believe that needs to be removed. Currently, it is not allowed for a medical patient to purchase from a dispensary and give to someone else. So there shouldn't be additional punitive measures, such as being a lifetime ban from the medical program for doing that on homegrown if it's not also applied to the purchase of medical cannabis.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, so why is home grow important, do you think, Kevin?
For a lot of reasons. I mean, earlier I mentioned that I don't think estate is fully legal unless people are out of prison, and home cultivation is legal. So I'm very happy that arrests have stopped, and I can have weed in my pocket and smoke it without getting arrested, but it's still not fully legal in my opinion. Like it was also mentioned, pheno hunting from an industry standpoint, because I know that we're in an industry conference, so that is important here. And being able to sell clones, consult, sell lighting equipment, soil. I garden. I'm a big gardener, not many plants, and I spend a lot of money doing that. It's not like money won't be spent in the economy with home cultivation. I'll finish, and then we want to encourage questions. Yeah, actually, just ask it. Yeah, you can.
I just wanted to actually interject and expand on what you were saying.
Please.
That I personally feel it's very important that people are able to have access to the ability to know what is going into the plants that they are using, especially on the medical level. And home grow is the only way that you can actually mitigate that.
100%.
Right,
Yeah.
cultivate your food,
Yep. 100%.
Right.
should be no different.
Exactly. Yep. And I grow like tomatoes, and I also buy tomatoes. Yeah.
Yeah, and every state that has, because we are the first state that has legalized adult use without also legalizing medical home cultivation, there's been no impact on the industry perspective, even for personal use that's legalized. People still buy from a dispensary. You want that selection. You might even buy more because you want to try new things, you want to try new strains. Or maybe like your harvest got, bud rot and you need to go to a dispensary. I mean, it's not, people that grow still go to dispensaries, so that's not a valid argument, and it's been proven through studies that it does not affect the market. So that excuse is not valid in my opinion, although that is the excuse that has been stated by the state Senate leadership currently. Their last excuse, then they've been silent on it for the year that we've been pushing, honestly. But prior to that, they did say that they were waiting for the industry to be established.
And then we got an industry letter.
Well, ask them the statistics behind how farmers markets actually affect the grocery industry here.
Yeah.
You guys are known as the garden state. You guys are the largest producer of blueberries. You guys are like the third largest producer of dairy in this state. So I'd really like to know how any of that independent farming has affected the commercial grocery status or the slavery that we all belong to, which is going to a grocery store to buy things that we don't really need, which we can grow at home if we weren't so focused on working for things and live in a space that we can't be in because we're stuck in a job.
Exactly.
So, we focus on living, not working, we might get somewhere.
And also, even beyond that, back to the pheno hunting, Rutgers produces their own types of tomatoes. I keep talking about tomatoes. That's part of the economy.
It's a huge part of the economy. And if you're not cross-growing plants, if you're not growing other plants besides cannabis, you're not really understanding plant science.
Right.
You should be growing vegetables. It should be just another herb or medicinal use. Like my oregano can be used medicinally. My sage can be used medicinally.
Yeah.
Why can't I grow this in my herb garden with all my other herbs? Because that's all it really is another plant-based medicine. All fruits and vegetables have medicinal purposes. When you add cannabis to them, it increases the chemical production of certain different things like turmeric and CBD. Like we've learned that one. So, fighting, just arguing with them about the grocery model. You can go to a farmer's market anywhere in New Jersey all summer long, buy fresh produce directly from a farmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can know what's in it, right? I can't go to a single dispensary and find out whether your weed's been radiated.
Yeah.
Big issue, the radiation.
And the pheno hunting, I think, is important right now with the plant count. If we can get the amendments to do canopy size and pheno hunting, then we could have New Jersey specific strains, and I would love that to actually innovate here.
That'd be the
rather
first
than
state in the
just-
country, because that's a great argument for it, because you are limited to plant counts. You are like, I live in a state where we have 6 per adult, and then, X amount of adults per house, and to me, a plant count is how many plants can I fit in the space that I'm using? That's
Yeah.
always my answer. Well, what size space do I have? What size pots am I using? What size am I using? Solo cups, am I using 1 gallon, am I using 2 gallons? Because exactly, if I'm gonna do a pheno hunt, I wanna be able to run 100 plants in a small place, find the one that I wanna keep, and then clone that one, because that's the one that works for my particular needs. And you can really dial down your medical needs of like, everybody in this room has endocannabinoid systems completely different.
Right.
Every strain's gonna affect us different. What this person likes or that person likes might get me completely different. So you're definitely not wrong there, but I don't understand the focus on just the medical. It should be just, everybody should be able to allow to grow weed.
Yeah, that's a whole thing, that we talk about that almost every week,
Yeah,
basically.
stepping stones,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, any right would be a great right, but
We've been thinking a lot about that, so I know there's questions, but also, like I said earlier, before a lot of you got here, we want to encourage conversation. We're hoping that this turns more into like a dialogue rather than just like us asking questions, so.
Right, I think, right now, what could happen more easily and quickly through the state senate in New Jersey would be medical home grow. So we have been focusing on the bill that's already existing, but also have been speaking not only internally, but with other people involved in the industry and senators about potential new legislation that would allow a permit for personal use, home cultivation, and maybe a breeder's permit and things like that to allow for that innovation within the state, and to also continue to regulate by perhaps maybe like how I think Maine has it, where it's either a plant count or canopy, because I know there's some outdoor growers that want to grow trees, where maybe one plant might be over 10 by 10 canopy on its own.
growing outside is a true expression of a plant. You're never gonna get that inside. The myth that we're trying to grow outdoors that look like indoors is wrong. We grow indoors that looks like proper outdoor cannabis. We're trying to replicate an environment.
Right. I mean, we basically want to try to educate the Senate in New Jersey, which they're completely uneducated about cannabis, to the different aspects of growing, so that they can make legislation that actually makes sense for the medical patient needs and the growers themselves, and to allow them that flexibility. I mean, if you're growing for medical, especially in New Jersey, we definitely recommend indoors where you can control the environment and any contamination risks. But as far as personal use, perhaps that is something that is more flexible, where it could either be a plant count or a canopy. And those are all conversations that I think we're having to try to put something forward to the state for consideration for that personal use. But alongside pushing this existing bill, which we have been able to get nine sponsors now, and hope that gets heard, because that should open some doors. And once they see that medical home cultivation isn't impacting the industry, which they should already know by now, and I think most of them do, it just needs to make it to that level of being heard. So one of the things that we're running into is that it's being posted to the Senate Health Committee agenda, and then it's being removed by Senate leadership. So it's really getting the senators to pressure each other so that it gets heard in the Senate Health Committee and can move forward. Because once it does move forward, it has the support to pass. It's just about getting past Senate leadership and making sure that the patients' voices are heard, and that the industry helps support those patient voices at this point.
And just to clarify too, Senate leadership is right now specifically one person in this context, which is Senator Scutari. That he is this single person in New Jersey who is apparently the advocate and champion for cannabis, or was. He had that, he liked wearing that hat for a little while, but now he is the single person holding up the bill. And ironically, in 2012, what was that?
Somebody paid him.
I don't know, I mean, I don't know.
No
This is
comment.
this is the Soprano state.
And
They call us the
ironically,
Soprano state.
and ironically, not many people realize this, but in 2012 or 2013, the first version of medical marijuana that was passed by the Senate had home cultivation in it. That didn't wind up, that wasn't the version that passed because the Assembly amended it, but the full Senate already a decade ago did vote to pass medical marijuana with home cultivation in it. And now, a decade later, after the public voted on legalization and we have legal possession, we can't get them to do it again.
Yeah.
So we're working on that, we're working on building our coalition, and trying to get out the awareness and get great people in the industry. Scott Rutter here, shout out to him, the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association. We have their support, this association of good businesses, a lot of local people, diversely owned, and really trying to fuse those two energies of the social justice and patients and the industry we're trying to see here, come about. I think is really important. And why it's really good to be here at an industry convention in Atlantic City, for example, versus a protest all the time. So, just going that way. So, Yeah, does anybody have any questions then?
Yeah, the hope, like I said, I've said it a few times, the hope is to get questions and engagement, like, yeah.
From somebody who works in the manufacturing of and distribution side of like grow equipment and is very hyper focused on home grow, how can we help to assure the biggest disconnection of when you do have a home grow law is people try it, they fail, and a lot of it comes from what they're using or the equipment they're using, or it's not the educational lack, that's part of it, but if they have a bad experience overall, they don't go back to it, and then they end up right back stuck in the dispensary model. So to get people to understand and really embrace the idea of growing your own, or embracing the freedom of growing your own, it starts with the proper equipment, it starts with proper education. So when my question is, how can we help support that, so when you guys hopefully, fingers crossed, get some sort of bill going, that you guys can ensure that the customers are, or the patients, I should say, are having an overall great experience, so we'll encourage other people to do it. That's how this has to be done. Where I live in a state where home cultivation has been legal since 2016, and I don't understand why people don't grow weed. Why there's a dispensary on every block.
Like, I'm a city slicker, man,
Dude,
it's a
like,
lot
I
of
can
work.
go- I can go on a 5-mile drive and hit like 7 dispensaries, but yet I can do this myself. Like, I don't understand it, and I can grow way better weed than any of the dispensaries. It's for way less money, for pennies on the dollar in comparison. God, if you wanna get the auto flower community, even less.
It's true with a lot of things, though. I mean, people just, some people just like making money and spending it rather than doing it. And we all may have different answers to
But
your question.
that's my point, is they're always gonna be those people, so they're never gonna affect their market, but the people that do wanna do it, how can we assure that they get the proper?
Well, we can
equipment
talk,
and
for example, I run HeadyNJ.com, we're an independent cannabis media company trying to educate people about the industries, amuse people about like what's going on, things like that. I think it's part of like, connecting like the whole like ecosystem of like the New Jersey cannabis community and industry. You're not from Jersey, you just said, man, like we can find the guys like you, have them here, it's
How can we use the
difficult.
brand's influence that we have, like, we're very hypercritical about heavy metal contents in our soils and our nutrients, and not trying to become tobacco. And I say that because the tobacco plant is not an evil plant, it's not the cancerous problem people call it, it's the things they've done to that plant that made it cancerous.
I gave it a
So-
bad name to tobacco, that's interesting.
It's 100% true.
You could say that with coca too. The coca plant is harmless.
There's
No story there, yeah, you said the Yale plant is harmless, it's
And
different.
because-
Peru it is harmless, but that's
I'll
another
lead into
story.
this, because this year in April, England cited the first death to cannabis due to cancer, because the same thing that was done to tobacco is now being done to
That's
cannabis.
actually bad.
So, yeah, that was the study out in England.
No,
Whose cancer is being.
Nobody died.
Oh, sorry, first cancer patients are now being linked to because of.
No, they're acknowledging elevated levels.
But it's elevated levels of, sorry,
radioactive.
elevated levels of radioactive carcinogens in cannabis because of the way we're growing it and because of what we're using.
Yes, here.
I think one thing we can do, especially some of the voices that are in this room, and we just came up with this idea randomly today, is we should reach out to some of these big cultivators in the state and just ask for some secondhand equipment, some of the stuff that they're,
That's a great idea.
Right, so it's an interesting thing of
lights,
getting the
those-
industry involved. Some of them might help us, some of them might tell their
Some of
friends
us
and get
actually
like a
can.
nice
Maybe
lobbyist to
maybe
then
frame
like
it as
tell
PR.
people about this.
Yeah, and some of us have the storage to store that equipment, if we can get that in the hands of patients that need it, to grow, there'd be a lot of support. I mean, they'll still be going to these guys for nutrients and all the knowledge and the resources that they provide. And what I have to say to what he's asking is continue to keep offering your customer support and your knowledge.
That's what we wanna do, is like.
Right, there's like an
stuff this,
ecosystem like in other
We
states
legalize
about
these
growing
people,
that does
give
not
classes,
exist in New
donate to
Jersey.
veteran societies, help underprivileged people that don't have the proper money to buy equipment, things like that, like how can we help draw attention to this?
The purple shirt and then,
I mean, I also wanna bring to attention that we're being very honest, that we need the, support from people in the industry, but I think we need to be honest with ourselves that not every single company wants home grow to happen, because it will
No,
impact
some of them
their
definitely do not like it.
A lot of them are misunderstood.
Like, I support, like, everything you guys are saying, but like, it's a matter of getting the proper support, cause some of these companies have the money
Let's
to
call 'em out.
lobby people.
Call them out.
to
Like the
go
lodge
against-
themselves do not like this and like have
They
been
don't
against
like-
it, and their lobbyists have been like against it.
But, I
Have
mean-
told, and
But I guess,
we've
like,
heard stories
I
off
guess
the
I'm like
record.
asking you, how can we support the right groups of cultivate, like, how can can we get?
We're finding like, we're getting like, growing our coalition of getting like more dispensaries on it, more ancillary brands, like more growing brands, like the machines he's talking about, like more seed companies, like connecting them in Jersey, having them reach out to their legislature, having them scan our QR code, you know, is what we're here for, you know?
We also, just for background, it was mentioned that initially Senator Scutari said that he didn't want to do this because he wanted the industry to mature first. And in response, we sort of alluded to it, but we didn't talk about it. We actually did a sign-on letter where we got industry to sign on, and we got, was it like hundreds? I
Yeah,
think.
we have a lot of
we have a
independent
lot of
dispensaries
independent-
supporting us.
The NJCDA is supportive, the NJCTA has come out in support, that, comes, I believe encompasses most licensed
Is there
cannabis
now?
operators in
Yeah.
the state.
So they
So
stopped.
certainly they don't speak on the, you know, exactly what everyone's doing behind the shadows. But publicly, all of the industry that I'm aware of has been in support, especially of medical home cultivation.
I want to add to that. So, and I'm going to try not to speak disparaging towards specific companies.
It's okay.
This is a safe
Safe space, the camera's on.
Let it out, Scott.
Fuck these guys. No.
Friends with.
Turn off
The people that are signed onto that letter recently signed the opposite letter in New York a couple years ago. Same exact people.
Right.
So what they learned is you're gonna get smacked around if you are publicly actively doing this thing, opposing home grow and other things. And it's just fascinating to watch. So yes, they will sign a letter because they know it's gonna be public record, but the lobbyist behind the scenes who's calling up people is not the same message.
Right, but at least if
Correct.
they're neutral and virtue signaling, like, I'll accept that. If you just say it on paper but don't work and don't want to talk to people about it while you talk about other things.
I agree, but what I'm saying is that you can't just trust that. You have to get actionable things. For example, I called those same people up in 2020 when we're doing a referendum to get legalization done. I called these MSOs up for campaign contributions. I got 0 from them. They contributed 0 to the campaign. Like, that to me was like stunning, because why would you do that? You are going to make a ton more money if we have legalization done. We have to stop the arrests, you're gonna have more expansion. We're gonna-
They said they were smart.
And the
It's big.
response was, we don't need the extra competition. They locked in the medical market, anxiety is now a condition, so yeah, sure, everybody in New Jersey is anxious, everybody has anxiety, so they cornered the market. Why would they want to contribute to something that's gonna deplete their profits? So in addition to, like, I'm the president of the NJCDA, but I'm also own a dispensary called Township Green. It's in Burlington County, it's Riverside, townshipgreen.com. But honestly, God, I am not gonna be impacted whatsoever if my friend here, who desperately needs to make her own specific strains, has the medicine she needs. That has no impact